This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow in the studio. We're talking to Steve Bick from still down in the New York area. We were both down at the Belmont Stakes yesterday for the fabulous undercard, and Steve, of course, has been there for about a week and a half. I popped down on Wednesday to get some work done for Capital OTB. Hopefully folks enjoyed the segments we shot up here, and hopefully you also enjoyed earlier on the mornings when you heard the rebroadcast of Steve's show from Belmont Park. And for, like I say, about a week and a half, you had some great interviews down there. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Seth. And I could have sworn I just saw you pull out of the lot here off the Cross Island.
Yeah, it seems like that. Believe me, I was kind of struggling a little bit through the handicappers report, but I'm hoping I have a second wind here. We'll see. I mentioned that we got it a lot about 10:15 last night, and the parking situation, something they have to address, I think, because we were in an auxiliary lot that was essentially just a field. And so when the races got over, everybody just kind of made for the two-lane driveway. They got you out of the lot. And so there were cars coming from virtually every direction. It just came to a complete standstill. So I would think, they would have to, there's got to be somebody out there, a big event parking consultant who can get the lot situated. But then also the police presence out on the street, I think they could have done a better job. We went out onto Plainfield Avenue there, and that was just kind of a mess with no real police direction out there. So, it seems like they could do a little bit of better job. But obviously, you can't have 102,000 people that arrive at various times of the day, but all leave at the same time and expect you're going to get right out. But it was kind of a mess, and I think it took longer than it probably should have because of, as I say, the parking lot itself just wasn't set up to funnel people properly, and then it didn't seem like the local authorities had things out on the streets very well. But we eventually got out, late arrival home. All of that said, it was a great day of racing. The weather was beautiful, and the races were just unparalleled with their quality. So overall, it was a fun experience, and even in the lot, there was obviously a little yelling and a little horn honking in the lot, but it seemed like most everybody had a pretty good day and had fun. What was your experience?
I had a fabulous day, and everybody that I was around and saw and spent any time with, virtually throughout the building, out on the front side, up in the boxes, up further in the clubhouse and grandstand, in the backyard, virtually everywhere. I know and certainly expected that you get a crowd like that, you're going to have the various issues crop up. It's just impossible. There's really only one facility in racing that can handle 100,000 and more plus specifically on 2 different days, and that's Churchill, because they've got it down to a science, and they run it like a military camp. I mean, it's run that way, and maybe that'll help people understand why when issues have cropped up at Churchill. And people say, it's like a police state. Now you know why. Because if you're going to funnel 100,000 whatever plus, you have to do it with a certain precision and authority, and it's not easy. So, look, you want to have no Triple Crown tries and have 50, 60,000 and virtually no problems? Okay. When there's a Triple Crown try, be prepared for some of these things. The Long Island Railroad embarrassed themselves because they were unprepared and did apparently a horrific job. Getting people in for a certain period of time was okay. Then they ran out of trains, and then getting them out of Elmont and back to Penn Station apparently turned into a real problem. So you're going to hear about that. But look, to be honest, all of that is extraneous. All of that is superfluous to the 13 races that were executed on the racetrack and to the just one treat after another. It was spectacular, and everything that NYRA had hoped and expected for the day, merging all the best days of the spring, the Met Mile and Belmont Day, it worked. The handle numbers, smashing all records. it was just spectacular. And the way the horsemen and owners responded in terms of filling the entry box, and the way that Frank Gabriel and Martin Panza and Andrew Burns went into building that card, that's the thing that everybody should be focused on, because this was one of those premier days of racing that those of us that are purists and those of us that want to gamble and look forward to the best assemblage of talent, that's what we got. And that's the major portent for anything to come. We had a Breeders' Cup in June.
Yeah, and we should reiterate that. And I'll go back to, there was 102,000 people there. But in the facility, I agree with you, everybody who walked by was having a great time. Folks who were really into racing just absolutely enjoyed the card. But folks who were just out with the Triple Crown posters for California Chrome, they were having a great day too, because beautiful weather. And 102,000, yeah, there were some lines at the mutual windows and whatnot. But it wasn't, you were not wall to wall. Even if you went out in the paddock for most of the day, you could still walk around a little bit. Obviously, up as it got up to the rail and whatnot, it became crowded. But you didn't feel stifled in any sense of the word. And so I think it was a great day. Overall, I think NYRA did a really nice job. As you say, the handle numbers were incredible. They handled the Belmont Stakes itself, $90 million. Now, how's that compared to their previous record? It's up 32% over the $68 million they did in 2004. On the total card, $150+ million. That's 35% better than their previous record. So 102,000 people. Just the numbers are phenomenal. It was great weather, a great day of racing. And just before we start to hit on some of the races, we'll touch on one more issue, and that was a negative to the day. After the race, Steve Coburn, the co-owner of California Chrome, was interviewed on NBC immediately after the race. And obviously, being at the track, I was not watching NBC, but it did not take more than probably 5 minutes before people's cell phones around me were ringing with reports of, gee, you should see what the guy said on NBC just moments ago, referring to a win by Tonelist as the coward's way out. It was just a bitter response. Mike Watchmaker in his column said maybe you forgive the guy a little bit because probably there was some disappointment. But by the same token, I think you have to be prepared for whatever can happen. You have to be prepared to win graciously if you win and lose graciously if you lose. And so you think you would have been a little better prepared than that. And this whole coward's way out, it's just an absurd notion. It's an absurd notion that only horses that run in the Derby can continue on. That's an unworkable plan. But the thing is, there are horses like Tonelist that get a ding and can't make the Derby, or horses that maybe mature a little bit later. Now, the rules as they are now have nothing against it. So if you have a Tonelist and you get a ding and you miss the Derby, but the horse is now coming into the Belmont, of course you're going to run for $1.5 million. So if Steve Coburn has a problem with the system, you don't say it a minute after the race and take the wind out of the sails of the people who have one of the biggest days in racing in their life. If he wanted to say something, say it an hour later, say it the next day, but also talk about the system in general. To me, I think it's a bad idea to begin with, what the argument he's making. But doing it a minute after the race, it just came off very bitter. That is certainly the feedback that's out there today. But I just think, he was, as I say, should have had maybe a little bit better game plan for after the race. And just the California Chrome story was so good. Part of it was the team and these guys kind of with the mayor, the $8,000 mayor and all that. And I think he just, one of the columns I read this morning said, here's a guy who was known for being kind of a shoot from the hip kind of guy, which was cute, but now he shot himself in the foot. And I think he and his team a real disservice.
Well, I have nothing to add in that regard. I didn't pay any attention to his antics after the Preakness when he had things to say about Churchill and so forth. And there's not a lot to pay attention here. Thing to do is to lose gracefully and say, we're anxious to see if the horse is all right. If he had just said that, he then could have gone back to the barn and seen that the horse was not all right. That in fact he had been badly stepped on and had a badly torn up quarter that a lot of horses basically won't even put in an effort. For him to run with that quarter bleeding and torn up, it was tremendously courageous and still comes within a couple of lengths. But obviously, don't forget that he was a guy that was talking. He was talking about winning the Triple Crown in March. So to some degree, I'm sure in the back of his mind, they couldn't lose, and so not being even prepared to have a gracious answer for when the very obvious and distinct possibility of losing happens, that's too bad. But my same overall sentiment. The other issues away from the focus on the racetrack and on the performances, that's the core, and there's lots of other things to address and talk about and so forth. But the priority to me is always what's going on with the animal and the riders and the people training, the people directly connected. Not worth spending a lot of time. Owners are always going to say things along the way that embarrass the horseman and reflect poorly on the horse. You just get used to that. It's not the first comment of its kind, and it won't be the last.
Yeah, and I'll give him a pass if he does come out today and maybe has a little mea culpa. I'm not sure that's his personality, though, but we'll see. But as you say, let's talk some of the racing now, and let's get to, and we're going to have a replay coming right out of the gate of the Belmont Stakes. The number 11 Tonalist will win. Number 8 Commissioner runs second. Medal Count third. And then Dead Heating for fourth. California Chrome and Wicked Strong. And they come out of the gate. California Chrome gets a good start and then kind of settles back. He's on the rail. On the backstretch, they pull out. Victor Espinoza quoted as saying he didn't feel like he had the same punch he'd had before. He thought pulling out may wake up the horse. It didn't. As you say, we now know he grabbed that quarter early on. Tonalist, however, got the jump on him at the top of the stretch. Also some fractions that certainly were, not mind-boggling by any means. It is worth noting the fractions for the Brooklyn earlier for the older horses. The early fractions were pretty similar, but they went around in 2:27 and change. The Belmont was 2:28 and change, so they came home a little faster in the Brooklyn. But it was a nice performance by Tonalist, and only the 5th start of the career coming out of the Peter Pan win last time. I have to admit, I didn't use him in my mix. I didn't use him reluctantly. I thought he was the one horse that I didn't use that might upset the apple cart. As it turns out, I also hadn't used Commissioner and Medal Count, so I was totally off the mark. But it was a nice performance, absolutely, by Tonalist.
It was more than a nice performance. It was an exceptional performance given the way he was kind of shuffled outside early and was not in the best position going into the first turn. Lost some ground. It was not the easiest of trips, and this is obviously not a race where you can recover easily from bad trips and from various problems. I mean, the race was honestly run, and other than California Chrome getting stepped on, right out of the gate by Matterhorn, you would have, potentially have had just a terrific and simply a confrontation that was going to be decided on, just on the horse's merits. I mean, certainly California Chrome having, the issues that he had to deal with virtually immediately from that, and, what it feels like for a horse to run with a grab. He was as good as he could have been under the circumstance. And, for people who are questioning how Victor Espinoza positioned him, there was nothing wrong with where he positioned him. He saved all the ground almost all the way around, and then he tipped out at exactly the point where he was best served tipping out to give the horse a clear run at the leaders. And certainly mid-stretch, it looked like he was getting to Commissioner and was going to get by. I mean, even very late, when there was a moment when Tonalist sort of idled, and Commissioner was even seemingly maybe not stopping, but was not finishing as well as it looked like he was at one point. Then you thought, all right, he still could win this here. And then he flattened out California Chrome. Tonalist surged again, and Commissioner just kept on. And Commissioner was the horse I talked about endlessly as a candidate to do exactly what he did, which was run those 24-plus quarters and just chug along. You talk about the mutuals. I needed that photo to go the other way. I needed commissioner to win that race. And what had been a poor day, I struggled all day, and all my best opinions ran second. And that you get days like that, but a commissioner win, it was that kind of a day, like a Breeders' Cup, where you're waiting for and hoping for one big hit that makes the day a success. And sometimes they come in batches. So it was a very satisfying Belmont, and I thought the entire Belmont atmosphere and the whole race got a shot in the arm in terms of its place in American racing when Palace Malice wins the Metropolitan the way he does. I mean, here was last year's Belmont winner back a year later, winning the most important handicap division race of its kind at this time of year, the Metropolitan Handicap. So
we're watching the stretch run of that right now.
Well, this was so classy. I mean, there's so many things going on here. How about Golden Sense not being seen since the Cigar Mile, and here he shows up off a 6+ month layoff and runs every step. I mean, he looked like a winner when he got to the front. I thought, oh my God, I mean, he's going to win. I barely considered him off that layoff with all these horses having recency. But again, how about John Velasquez's ride, where he puts Palace Malice in about the 2-path, give or take, the 1.5 2-path, and he makes sure that no matter what happens in that stretch ride, he was going to have a place to find. There was going to be a hole for him to probe and get through. And when he basically committed to the rail and ended up being very smart, because here's, who was it? Broadway Empire was backing up a little bit, and it opened up that seam, and up the rail he comes. A very impressive win, and I think, Palace Malice clearly with Wise Dan on the shelf and questions from Will Take Charge and from Game On Dude and so forth, Palace Malice stands alone, comes back with a 111 buyer, and basically puts to rest for now the people who say that the Belmont Stakes is meaningless and it's an anachronism. I tweeted that this morning. Here's last year's Belmont winner winning brilliantly.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's at the top of the class right now among all the horses after that win yesterday. The Met Mile certainly is a good addition to the resume, and it was a nice race. And I'm also with you, although I used Golden Sense. I had him kicking off a pick 3 for me. So about mid-stretch, I thought he was going to do it. Between the two, I used both of them in that pick 3, but obviously I wanted a little longer price Golden Sense. But when Palace Malice got in gear, you could just see he was going to go right by him, and did. All right, before we go to the break, why don't we take a look at the Manhattan as well. I didn't think it was a super strong addition or not an incredibly strong field. But that said, I think Real Solution kind of validates his move up in last year's Arlington Million on the disqualification, gets it done with a nice stretch run here for Chad Brown and Ken and Sarah Ramsey. Will be number 9, Real Solution winning. Kagan runs second. Seek again for Bill Mott runs third in here. But as I say, it was a nice performance by the horse that last year got moved up in the Arlington Million.
Well, and that's something else I did this morning. I was going through all my notes and watching replays and trying to catch up on the whole day, because one thing you can't really do, you can't let your thoughts out via media so easily with that kind of crowd. It just got impossible to stay in touch with people, let them know your thoughts as the day was progressing. But yeah, here's another thing that you can put away and pack it up in a box, which is Real Solutions never finished in front of a horse at the wire. Okay, he has now, so move on to your next picayune point.
So there we go. There are the last 3 big stakes that were on the card yesterday. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll look at some more of the very, very nice stakes action from Belmont Park. We'll head on to our first commercial break right now. So stay tuned. Live in the studio, Seth Merrill. Via phone, Steve Bick. Loose on the Lead will continue right after this.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Gosepper kicking clear, and Gosepper is pulling away impressively.
Hysterical Lady, Ginger Punch to win it.
And it's Wilco in front, and he's going to pull off a huge upset here.
But it's Round Pond going on to take the distaff.
Awesome again. Star of 10 Grade 1 winners, 4 Breeders' Cup champions, and 4 multimillionaires, standing at Adena Springs.
It's more than just a sports bar. It's Stadium Cafe. Located at 389 Broadway in Saratoga, it's the place to be for great times and great food. Their menu features everything from gourmet entrees to your favorite wraps and sandwiches. Or maybe you just want to grab a beer and catch the game. So what could be better than that? How about 2 Stadium Cafes? There's also the Westside Stadium, right up the road at 112 Congress Street. Same great menu, same great service. Whether you're hanging at the bar or just relaxing outside on their spacious covered patio, you'll always leave knowing you'll be back again.
We love, above all, the staff. We love Dave Harmon, and the food is fantastic.
Not 1, but 2. 112 Congress Street, 389 Broadway. Guaranteed to be a home run.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTV.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTV.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrill, Steve Bick by phone. We're talking a little Belmont Stakes action. We were both down there yesterday enjoying a glorious day of racing. The weather was great. The racing was even better, and we're taking some looks now at some of that stakes action. And Steve, one of the highlights on the card that everybody was anticipating, and not after the draw, they've been anticipating this for probably a month and a half now. The Ogden Phipps bringing together Closed Hatches, Beholder, and Princess of Sylmar. We're going to watch the stretch run. I was a little disappointed. In my betting, I actually hit a triple in next to the race right after the Belmont that pulled me out a little bit. But otherwise, it was one of those days where I was running around and you couldn't concentrate. So this was a $19 exacta that I called on the webpage the night before, and I kicked myself that I didn't just look and play it straight. But it'll be the number 1 Closed Hatches winning, Princess of Sylmar running second. Beholder disappoints a little bit as the even money favorite running 4th, but down the stretch, with Closed Hatches and Princess of Sylmar being a head apart at the end, I think it certainly lived up to the hype.
I'm not so sure.
No?
I mean, no, I'm not. In terms of, certainly visually and in terms of excitement, oh yeah, I mean, that part was fine. You don't find it a little distressing that the 230 to 1 shots, that horses like Antipathy and Belle Galatny are within a length of these 3 horses? Well, that's a real. I mean, yeah. It's not it's not a blemish on the race per se, but this was a weird. This was actually a weird result, and what you ended up happening here was clearly Princess of Sylmar and Beholder, with their 2 limited returns to action so far against overmatched opponents. They clearly were just not at. I mean, people were saying, "Oh, they're better than last year." Well, not yet. They aren't. And Closed Hatches had a big advantage on them in terms of fitness and tightness. Having been seriously campaigned already in the Apple Blossom and in the Azaru. So I mean, she had 2 real races, and the other 2 had tomato can prep. And then when you fold in Antipathy and Belle Galatny, it's not like the 3 of them, the 3 of them were supposed to distance themselves from those horses.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah.
So aesthetically, it was still exciting, but it was seemingly, it's going to end up being a means to an end. Because, I mean, I really don't feel that Closed Hatches is a better horse. I don't think she was a better horse than Beholder and Princess Sylmar coming in. And she wins this round, basically. This does set up a very fun summer and fall. But don't expect Richard Mandela back for another 14 years.
And Just what you alluded to is why I liked Close Hatches yesterday. I thought the two races down at Oaklawn had her much more fit than as you say, the tomato can races for the other two. But yeah, you make a fair point because, again, separating those top four, which included separating the top five, which included the 30-to-1 shot and the 25-to-1 shot, head, neck, three-quarter. So they were all there, and as we saw on the video, right under the wire. So yeah, fair point. All right, let's move on now to the 3-year-olds in the Acorn going a mile on the dirt for $750,000. And it was a nice victory, as it was up at Saratoga last year with Sweet Reason, because Leah Giarmati gets it done, and Sweet Reason kind of back on track now as a 3-year-old, getting that Grade 1 Acorn under her belt, doing it with a nice run in the stretch to get up by a half a length. She will be here on the video. The number 5 horse, number 4, Sweet Whiskey, runs second at 32-to-1. 7 Unbridled Forever at 9-to-1 runs third. The 8-to-5 favorite, My Miss Sophia, winds up a disappointing 7th in here. Your thoughts on the Acorn?
Yeah, it's a wonderful win for Leah Giamatti and everybody that just adores Leah. So easy to get behind. And, of course, owner Jeff Treadway, who spent a lot of money, is really being rewarded here with this horse. She's now a Grade 1 winner at both 2 and 3. A tremendous job by Leah coming out of the 2-year-old season where things were not perfect, and she may have made some tactical mistakes trying to get ready for the fall with Sweet Reason. Then had some trouble early on this year, and she really made the right adjustments. That was evident by how terrific the filly looked. And then Irad Ortiz Jr. with an absolutely textbookly brilliant performance in the irons. I mean, Irad Ortiz, his ride here is something special. And, of course, you talk about My Miss Sophia, very disappointing. And she was ranked and never comfortable. You never sense at any point, and maybe she's a horse that, it's funny, Andy Sterling said this the other day when we were previewing the race. Andy was concerned that going back to a one-turn route was going to potentially be a problem for her, because she appears to be one of those horses that likes to get to the lead in a 2-turn route, and that's a better scenario for her. And that was sort of borne out. They were going a little fast for her early. They went 45 change. So that, when she didn't get to the lead, you could see that she was never a winner. I mean, on the backstretch, way before the turn, it was obvious. Unbridled Forever comes clunking up, doing what she does. She gets another Grade 1 placing. I thought 50 Shades of Gold did a nice job, to be fourth and hang on in here, beating 5-6 lengths. She's a terrific, the Texas bred for Brett Calhoun. Credit to them for showing up in here as well. Coming out of the 8 Bells. Those were the major storylines. But Sweet Reason, whenever Leah Giamatti wins, Aqueduct, Belmont, and Saratoga go crazy because everybody loves Leah and Herbie Castillo and that whole barn.
Yeah, and it was, as they say, adds the Grade 1 now as a 3-year-old filly, so has rebounded back to the form we saw last year as a 2-year-old. All right, and finally, another stakes race I wanted to look at on the program and get your opinions on. Palace Malice, I thought, was impressive with that win, but another very impressive win on the undercard was Bayern in the Woody Stevens for 3-year-olds sprinting 7 furlongs. And this was just, it was the 5th race on the card, so it was fairly early in the day, and I'm sure it's going to get overshadowed by if not the Belmont itself, then you throw in the Met Mile and the Phipps. But boy, this was a really, really nice performance. Number 1, Bayern, under Gary Stevens, for Bob Baffert, runs off by over 7 lengths. Top Fortitude, ships in from Southern California, runs second in the 4th career start at 23-1. Social Inclusion, number 11, the even money favorite, runs 3rd in here. But as I say, Bayern just ran away from him.
This was a sparkling effort, and I mean, jaw-dropping. 107 buyer, and what can you say? Baffert has such a record of success. Taking the candidates for Triple Crown races, and he cuts them back to what he feels obviously is they're going to be their best distance in their future. He'll do the same thing with Cheetu when Cheetu's ready to come back. I mean, this is nothing new. Shaking It Up, of course, another horse like that was fourth and ran an okay Met Mile. Baffert's tremendous with this, and I'm not looking to bash Rosie Napravnik, but this was a very big rider switch going back to Gary Stevens, who's now 3 for 4 with Bayern, and this was unbelievable. I mean, he duels early and basically runs everybody off their feet, and, it's one thing to do that and win by a length and win, with some horses closing on you late. There wasn't anybody doing anything to him late. He absolutely gutted this field. I was really impressed. So we finally have a very clear leader in the sprint division right now with Bayern on top. The social inclusion story, of course, is part of this. And, here was a horse that was also cutting back. And I, Seth, was against the whole concept of him running in this race. It just wasn't the right thing to do. There was no need for this. I think they thought they were doing the right thing, but now I think they got to really back off him a little bit. I mean, he was a sweaty, drippy mess going into the gate. I mean, you could see on the screen, you could see the water pouring off his neck and chest. So this is a horse that, has had a lot thrown at him. He's never been worse than third. He's got 3 straight stakes placements, in the Preakness, the Wood Memorial, and now the Woody Stevens. I think they got to really take some time now and let this horse relax a little bit and try to build him back forward. I want to throw out a congratulations to Corey Owens and his father, Triple A Ranch in Arizona. They brought Top Fortitude to town, and they get rewarded with a very nice placement for Top Fortitude. This is a horse I loved his brother, Bango, and I thought he ran, a very good race. He just kept coming and coming and coming, and he stayed on and gets rewarded with a nice check and a placement in the Woody Stevens.
Yeah, and it won the Las Barrera last time out. I didn't even notice that till you mentioned it. Arizona bred. He had come in from Southern California. I mentioned that, but very, very good.
Well, that's him and his dad. They have that mare. Top Debutante. Is basically his father's mare, and they breed to that to the sire Top Head, and they've had a great run of success with that family. French Debutante is the dam.
Yeah,
and Top Head, the Arizona. It's a great credit to the Arizona program. You remember his brother? That Bango was a hard hitter.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we let you go, I just wanted to touch on one more race because you talk about connections making the right decision. I think Linda Rice and those connections made the right decision with Kid Cruz. Second race of the day was the Easy Goer, a listed stake for $150,000. And Kid Cruz, after the dud in the Preakness, maybe needed a little confidence booster to get back to those performances we saw in the private terms in the Tessio, which were so impressive down in Maryland. But Kid Cruz looked pretty nice in that Easy Goer as well.
It surprised me. I needed the horses that ran 2-3, Legend, the nice horse with Jimmy Bond, and Clement's Life in Shambles, who had really outworked Tonalist.
Yeah.
And the two of them, they went fast early in this race. And Kid Cruz, another brilliant ride by Arad Ortiz, who basically was last early and then picked them all up late and wins going away. I mean, I thought that was great. It killed me early, frankly, but nice performance. And how about Linda Rice on the whole weekend? Linda Rice wins this race on Saturday, and on Friday she wins the True North with Palace, and both horses that she claimed, Palace for $20,000 and Kid Cruz for $50,000.
Yeah.
So good job to everybody involved. Black Swan, of course, bought back into this horse with that Dina Del Mar, who had claimed Kid Cruz. One other race you didn't mention, the other Grade 1, and I'm not going to let this go without congratulating Brian Lynch on his first Grade 1 win as a trainer. Brian Lynch is a really terrific horseman, a fabulously fun guy around the racetrack that everybody loves, really outgoing, and Brian Lynch what can I say? I mean, Coffee Cliff ran some race to win that just the game. I mean, that was a terrific performance, too.
Yeah, just got up to win that one as well by a nose. So, yeah, that was a very nice performance. All right, Steve, we'll let you go. Safe travels back. You got anything you want to wrap up before we move on?
I don't know. I'm like you. I think I'm running on fumes. Here's something I'll add. What a treat it was to have you around the racetrack. I mean, in Saratoga, of course, you're there every day. That's different. But to have you at a remote locale, that was spectacular. You and Mick Richards tromping the backstretch all over. Every time I looked up, you guys were popping up somewhere like the Jack in the Box.
Yeah,
you obviously had a great time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we put together some nice packages, and I hope people enjoyed those over the last few days. But it was fun, and amazingly, my first trip to Belmont Park, everybody I told was kind of amazed. Here I live right upstate, and it's a drive down the turnpike essentially. But it was a couple of nights ago, it dawned on me. I had visited Albuquerque Downs before I had gotten to Belmont Park. I don't know what that says about me.
I wouldn't have actually told anybody that, but all right, that's your choice.
Well, Albuquerque was nice, though, and I got relatives out there, so there's the story. But
well,
yeah,
I'm glad you took the right turn to Elmont instead of the left turn to Albuquerque.
Exactly, and I'm glad too because it was a really nice 4 days down there. I enjoyed it. I remind people again, you were there for a week and a half, and you had a great set of interviews. I linked to that Gary Stevens interview on Monday. That was very good. And coming up this week, I'm sure you'll have plenty of recap and review action as well.
Well, it was, I guess, one summary, and then maybe we'll probably do our usual full wrap-up package of the Triple Crown next week. But it was a fascinating odyssey. It always is. There's ups, there's downs, there's thrills, there's chills, you name it. It has it all, and it's one reason. In fact, Tim Layden wrote this morning in the Sports Illustrated piece online how, also Steve Christ, who I had Friday, don't touch this Triple Crown, the timing, the sanctity of it, the succinctness of it, the way these 5 weeks work. Think about all the the national and international media attention, the excitement it builds, everything that goes with it is part of the 5 week, this intense, truncated attention, and it's the most marketable product that the sport has. Do not tinker with it.
Yeah, I agree completely. The press box was jammed yesterday. National coverage, international coverage. As you walked in the clubhouse entrance, all the satellite trucks were out there. It definitely attracted a lot of attention, and I agree. That 5 week span is part of the story. All right, Steve, we'll let you go. We're going to have you back here in the studio next week?
I think so.
I
think so. I haven't looked beyond, frankly, I haven't looked beyond, right now, the assignment my first priority is lining up everybody for tomorrow's show, Chris Clement and Fletcher and everybody that's going to be on. So I suppose I'll be there next Sunday.
All right. Well,
yes, I commit.
Okay. All right. Well, now we'll hold you to it. So we'll see you in here next Sunday. Get home safely and enjoy the trip. Had a great week down there and enjoyed seeing you and Tina as well. So as I say, get home safely.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you this week.
All right. Steve Bick from Sirius and XM's At the Races. We'll take our next break. Gary West from ESPN.com. We'll get some of his thoughts on yesterday's Belmont action right after this. I'm Seth Merrill. Join me weekdays at 10 for Racing Across America. We'll look at important races from around the country, get insight from top handicappers and analysts, and preview the upcoming week in racing. That's Racing Across America, weekdays at 10, right here on the OTB TV network.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
I didn't want to get just any degree after high school.
Horse racing has always been my passion.
I was already a lawyer.
When I was young, my dad took me to the races. The sound of the crowd. I still remember.
I'm 40, and I don't want to stay in a career I don't love.
I want to follow my passion.
Follow your passion at the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead. Happy to be joined now by Gary West of ESPN.com. You can follow his columns there, and he's certainly been covering the Triple Crown Trail through the early portion of the year and had good thoughts on the 3-year-olds and whatnot, and the other divisions as well, and they all came together yesterday. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. And we'll kick things right off talking about the big race. There was a chance at the Triple Crown on the line. I was among the 102,000 people, and I actually had myself positioned. They had a little place where the press could stand next to the winner's circle. And rather than be in the kind of the sterile press box, I went down there and stood with the crowd, and there was a roar of anticipation as they headed to the starting gate, a roar as they came out, and a roar at about the 8th fall, but then maybe a little more silence as they came under the wire, and there was the disappointment. Although I will add this, as California Chrome came off the track and walked up the tunnel, there was a real round of applause just for California Chrome coming off of the track after the defeat. So that was nice to hear as well. But Gary, we're watching them come down the stretch here. Subsequently, we found out that California Chrome grabbed a quarter. That may have affected him. As I say, at about the 8th pole, he was still live and in there, but subsequently couldn't catch up to Tonalist and Commissioner. Medal count gets in for third, and dead heating for fourth, and disappointing things was California Chrome. But again, the grab quarter may have been a little bit of an excuse, and also certainly the end of the Triple Crown is also always a tough. That's what makes it what it is, that 5-week schedule, and then going 1.5 miles in the third event. What were your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts were exactly the same. I thought Victor Espinoza could have given the horse more chance to win, perhaps, if he would have gone to the lead. But again, that's the the perspective of hindsight, which is always infallible. As it turned out, he had to lose ground in the turn. He probably lost enough ground that it deprived him of energy and probably or conceivably could have cost him the race, along with the grab quarter. In other words, with a better trip, he might have won. But ultimately, great horses can overcome bad trips, and great horses get it done. And he just wasn't good enough in the end. I think he, in the final 16th and final 1/8 of a mile, he wasn't good enough to get home first. And that doesn't take anything away from a terrific racehorse. He had a great Triple Crown and gave us all many, many thrills. And it was a wonderful story. But the drought continues, and we're still waiting for the next Secretariat affirmed our Seattle Slew, if one is to come along. But California Chrome, an outstanding racehorse, but he wasn't it.
Yeah, and again, tip of the cap also to Tonalist. 5th career start, wins the Belmont Stakes. And yeah, California Chrome finishes 4th, but that was a ding-dong battle for the top position among Tonalist and Commissioner. So a nice gutsy performance from Tonalist. He'll be fun, certainly up in our neck of the woods with Christophe Clement. We can expect to see him, I would imagine, in the Travers. Now, it seems there were some tweets coming out this morning that Art Sherman is indicating Travers probably not on the schedule for the Southern California-based California Chrome. But I'll be interested to see where they do pick next for California Chrome.
Yes, I will too. I assume he'll go back to California and get a long rest, and then they'll bring him back, maybe in, if not August, then in the fall, and aim at the Breeders' Cup. But he certainly deserves a big rest because right now, he's won 2/3 of the Triple Crown and is, I would say, along with Palace Malice, the leading candidate for Horse of the Year. So he's already accomplished a great deal, and he could become Horse of the Year if he finishes strongly.
Yeah, I read a few weeks ago that the guys out of Del Mar are going to make a push to get him to the Pac Classic. So that would certainly be interesting if that was going to be on the resume for a late summer. But we'll keep our eyes on the situation and see where they go, obviously, and also keep watching and hear more about the grabbed quarter as well and how that heals up. But before we move on, Gary, I just got to touch on the post-race comments by Steve Coburn, because that is certainly the buzz this morning. It was the buzz yesterday. I said earlier on the show, my partner Steve Bick was on with us via phone, and I said to him, I was, again, out trackside watching the race, so obviously I was not watching the NBC feed, but it was probably not more than 5 minutes after the race that cell phones around me started to ring, and people were saying, boy, you should have heard what Steve Coburn just said on the broadcast, and this coward's way out thing. My take earlier on the show was, if he has a gripe, it's with the system. It's not with these horses. And if you wanted to say something, wait an hour, wait till the next day. Don't rain on somebody else's parade 2 minutes after the race. I think it was, kind of a bitter response. I'm sure he was very disappointed, and I will give him a pass if he comes out today with maybe a little bit of mea culpa. I'm not sure that's his personality, but I think he has more of a gripe with the system than with the folks who are playing by the rules, and there's $1.5 million on the line. My question to him would be, what if he had come up with a ding after the Santa Anita Derby and had just enough to miss the Kentucky Derby? Are you telling me they wouldn't have gone to the Preakness or the Belmont themselves? So I think that rained a little bit on the goodwill that they'd already fostered for California Chrome. What were your thoughts?
Well, it was so unfortunate. Coburn is the owner who, before the Kentucky Derby, predicted not only a Derby victory but a Triple Crown, and did it rather boastfully. And I remember thinking at the time, my gosh, the racing gods really don't like to hear that kind of stuff, and maybe they put off getting back at him until the Belmont. But that was a brazen thing and a foolish thing to say before the Triple Crown began, and it just proves once again that he really doesn't know what he's talking about and doesn't have much knowledge of the game. What he's proposing is just absurd, because it would destroy the Triple Crown basically. It would guarantee a small field in the Preakness and a minuscule field in the Belmont Stakes. And basically what he's saying is the Kentucky Derby, after he wins the Derby for the next two races, gets to run against the same horses he's been beating. Yeah. And that's just ridiculous. And that would, as I said, destroy the Triple Crown if that were to happen. And, of course, it won't happen. And I hope we don't see any change in the Triple Crown at all. It's a marvelous series, and it is now a tradition to run the 3 races in 5 weeks, and 3 great horses did it in the 70s, and I'm confident that another great horse is going to do it, and I think very soon, but we didn't see him this year, but maybe next. But that's no reason to change the Triple Crown, and certainly no reason to change it in the way Coburn suggests, which is ludicrous.
And I'll also toss in there, you mentioned you think we'll see one soon. I would tend to agree with this. We've been close now in the past 10 or 15 years on a number of occasions, but that important factor that has been mentioned by a few people over the last few weeks, the decreasing foal crop that is now playing a factor in this, I think is more important than people give it credit for, because I think that if you get a horse that can just get a little bit of an edge on the rest of the 3-year-olds, there are less of them out there now, and so I think that's going to be very important. I would agree with you. I think we've got one on the horizon sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think the foal crop is the major factor. It's just a numbers thing. In the 1989 group of 3-year-olds, of course, was magnificent with Easy Goer and Sunday Silence. Well, they emerged from a foal crop of more than 50,000, which is double the foal crop today. So basically, you need a large number of foals for a great horse to emerge. But when it gets too large, or when it gets up to 50,000, you face the possibility of having multiple outstanding horses emerge, and they're just going to beat each other, as they did in 1989, and of course we saw it with Silver Charm and that outstanding group of 3-year-olds. But now the full crop is down now to the 1970 levels that produced the 3 great horses, of course, that won the Triple Crown in that decade. And so I think we're going to see another Triple Crown winner soon.
Yeah, I agree. But speaking of great horses, I want to go a little earlier on the card, and a performance that I think is now defined a leading contender, as you say, for Horse of the Year out there, and certainly the leader in the handicap division, which, as we've seen with Wise Dan winning Horse of the Year the past couple of years, the dirt handicap division has been a little bit undefined. But we're going to watch the stretch run now from the Met Mile yesterday. About the 8th pole, I'd kicked off a pick 3 with both Golden Sense and Palace Malice, and obviously at the odds, I was rooting for Golden Sense. And I thought about the 8th pole, maybe I'd get it done. But when Palace Malice kicked it in, you could see he was going to go right on by. And I think this year, Palace Malice is really defining himself as the top of the heap out there.
What a marvelous horse! He ran the last quarter mile, and if I remember, it was 23 and change, because they finished up in 33 and basically 33.56, 33 and 3, and they had gone 3 quarters and 9 and 2, and he was about a length and a half, 2 lengths back. So he went the last quarter in 23 and change when he found that opening, that seam, and got through there. What a marvelous performance, and he no doubt moves to the top of the handicap division, and is right there, I think, with California Chrome on as a leader on the way to Horse of the Year honors. He was very good as a 3-year-old. He kept encountering trouble. Remember in the Bluegrass, he made the lead, but then lost focus. Then they put blinkers on him in the Derby, and he ran like a wild horse. And then he got it together. I remember early in the year when he was 3, he had trouble in New Orleans. He made this huge move and just got clobbered and stopped in the I think it was the Risen Star. So he's a horse that has learned now to use his talents and his speed, and he has become just a tremendous racehorse. And there was a lot of speculation about California Chrome's value as a stallion. Well, this is the most valuable stallion prospect in the country, without a doubt. Not only did he win the mile-and-a-half Belmont, but now he's won the Met Mile. What a tremendous racehorse, and I'm just a huge fan.
Yeah, as you say, the resume he's put together now. Yeah, when he goes off to the shed, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And Gary, I want to touch on another race that was really spectacular, an anticipated race on the card. We're going to watch the stretch run of the Ogden Phipps for 4-year-old and up fillies and mares. $1 million on the line, going 1 mile and 1/16. And again, everybody wanted to see Close Hatches, Princess of Silmar, Beholder. I talked with my partner, Steve Bick, again via phone earlier, and I said kind of lived up to the hype. Yeah, Beholder disappointed, but the nice close finish with Close Hatches and Princess of Silmar kind of lived up to the hype. I will say he disagreed with me a little, and I thought he made a fair point in that at 30-1 Antipathy and at 25-1 Bel Galante are right there at the finish. So maybe it's not as impressive as I thought, although it was a ding-dong battle and exciting. Close Hatches, I put on top off the 2 nice races down at Oaklawn, which I thought just had her a little bit fitter. But as Steve said, you had both Beholder and Princess of Silmar coming out of just kind of prep races. And so we might see better from these down the way. Again, it was an exciting race, but he made a great point with the 2 long shots in there. Maybe it wasn't quite as impressive as I first gave it credit for.
Well, it was an exciting race. Beholder probably didn't give her a performance in the Phipps, but Close Hatches and Princess of Silmar, I thought, ran terrific races. The track was very, very fast yesterday at Belmont Park, and I think that helped Antipathy, who was sitting behind a very fast pace in the Phipps. I think Classic Point went out there in 45. I think that contributed to her very good performance in finishing 3rd. But Princess of Silmar almost ran them all down. I thought she had a tremendous effort, considering she had to go 5 wide in the turn, and Close Hatches proved how game she is. So those horses are outstanding mares, and it's going to be fun to watch Close Hatches, Princess of Silmar, and Beholder as well for the rest of the year, particularly the first 2, because we can anticipate seeing them again in New York. But I think it's an exciting division, in part because there's no standout at this point. Close Hatches seems to have caught up with their rival here, Beholder, and of course Princess of Sylmar. Last year it was an outstanding 3-year-old, except for one clunker in the Breeders' Cup. She would have been champion, certainly. So it's an outstanding division. I'm looking forward to seeing them all meet down the road. It's a complex rivalry that involves 3 horses.
Yeah, and as you say, a fun division. The 3-year-olds now are going to be fun, although Art Sherman has indicated, I guess earlier today, saw some things on Twitter that said Travers will not be on the schedule for California Chrome. That's a little bit of a disappointment, but we're still a couple months away. They might change their mind, but Palace Malice, again, top of the class, but that handicap division is a lot of fun this year. And Gary, before we let you go, I just want to talk about one of the subdivisions that was a little bit interesting on the card yesterday, and that was Bayern in the subdivision of 3-year-old sprinters. I thought he was really impressive.
Well, I did too. You know, the time in that race was, what, 20 and change, I believe. And for those who make speed figures, his speed figure is going to be a couple of points lower. I'm just eyeballing it now. I haven't really analyzed it closely, but a couple of points lower than Palace Malice's. What an outstanding effort, and I think he puts himself in the ball game with that kind of performance. You know, he got clobbered in the Preakness when he came out of the gate, lost all chance, and this is a horse that Bob Baffert has been high on since early in the year, and he had some illness that set him back. But I think he's coming into his own now, and you know, you would think if a horse wins 2/3 the Triple Crown, he has it wrapped up, but not necessarily. You know, if he doesn't win another race this year, he's leaving the door open. Certainly, if Tonalist can win the Travers, or Bayern can pop in there even with a couple of big wins. The 3-0 championship isn't quite done yet, so it's still an exciting division.
Yeah, I think we saw in the 3-year-old filly last year, you can't make your decision in August because if somebody runs the table late summer, early fall, and then gets a Breeders' Cup win, things can change pretty quickly. So it's going to be interesting in that 3-year-old division as we go forward. And certainly we'll have some attention on that as well as the rest of the divisions by tuning into your work on ESPN.com. And again, Gary, we certainly tout people to do that regularly. Gary West from ESPN.com. Again, thanks for the visit this morning, and we'll catch up with you next time.
My pleasure, as always, Seth. See you later.
Thanks a lot. Gary West from ESPN.com. Earlier, we talked with my partner, Steve Bick, via phone. He's still down in New York after being there for the past couple of weeks with the radio program, but he'll be back in here with us live in the studio next week. That's going to wrap things up for Loose on the Lead. Don't forget, questions, comments, suggestions. We would love to hear from you. looseonthelead@yahoo.com. Again, we would absolutely love to hear from you. That's going to wrap things up for this edition of Loose on the Lead. I got through it. After the 2 a.m. arrival last night from Belmont Park, survived a couple hours on the air. Loose on the Lead here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11 a.m. Monday morning, we kick things off 9 a.m. with the Handicappers Report, 10 a.m. with Racing Across America. I'll be back tomorrow morning after catching a nap a little bit later. I'll be fresher. So tune in as we do some Belmont Stakes recap all week long. Triple Crown recap. Should be fun on Racing Across America. But again, at 9 o'clock tomorrow, Handicappers Report. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.